Hi, I'm Eric Mieni, and this is Breaking New Ground, where we look at housing delivery here in our beloved South Africa. South African housing agencies were set up to deal specifically with those areas of housing delivery that need special attention. Social housing delivery is one such area. Although it has been around since the 60s in cities like New York, Amsterdam, London, and Paris, social housing is relatively new in South Africa. Simply put, social housing is the provision of affordable rental space to poor households in and very near cities. This makes it possible for those families to live very near their place of work, thus improving their quality of life by saving them money on transportation costs and such things as travel time to and from work. In South Africa, the role of providing social housing and making sure that the right people benefit from it falls on the Social Housing Foundation. This foundation works through intermediary institutions such as the Johannesburg Social Housing Company, JOSHCO for short. Let's take a look at how these institutions work. The buildings you see on this construction site used to be single-sex hostels for males. Now, although JOSHCO's main functions involve renovating old, abandoned buildings or building completely new ones, like in Kliptown, it is also tasked with converting buildings like this into family units. To give us more around what JOSHCO does is its CEO, Rory Gallagher. In essence, JOSHCO is appointed by the Social Housing Foundation to do some of the work it needs done. Could you start by telling us what governs the relationship between the two institutions?
First of all, on JOSHCO's side, we are what's called a social housing institution.
Right.
So our job is to actually construct and manage social housing units, which are rental units. On the other hand, the Social Housing Foundation is what's called a national housing agency. So they give us support. They're a support agency. And what they give us support in is they create the whole policy framework within which we do what we do. But also recently they do another very important thing, and that is they provide the actual funding. They provide a grant which is called the National Social Housing Grant. And they do that as an agent of national government. So to make a specific example about that, this project that we're standing in front of is one of two projects where the Social Housing Foundation has awarded a construction grant. It's a development grant for the actual construction of this project. So to cut a long story short, the Social Housing Foundation is an essential partner that JOSHCO partners with and that JOSHCO gets support from in order to manage the social housing, in order to construct the social housing, in order to fund the social housing. They're effectively the National Social Housing Agency of government that steers the program at a national level. Because what you see here is actually part of an overall, what's called a national social housing strategy. The National Minister of Housing is very big on rental housing, and this is part of her rental housing drive.
Okay, so what work does JOSHCO actually do?
Okay, JOSHCO is responsible, and JOSHCO does effectively four main things. The first one that we do is we do new construction. So because there's a severe need for rental housing in the city, we actually find land. We either source it or we procure it through the city-owned land when it's well located, and we do new construction, new development. That's the first one. The second one that we do is we take existing hostels, because the city and the province both own a lot of former male single-sex hostels and even some public women's hostels. We take those sites and we convert them from a hostel into family accommodation, exactly like this hostel that we're standing in front of. The third one is that we actually renovate existing residential buildings that are derelict, and most of the focus on this is in the inner cities. Any inner city or declining urban center within the city of Johannesburg. So it can be, for example, Randburg, Roodepoort, and now very much so in the inner city of Johannesburg. And then, Eric, the last part of what we do is that it's not only about constructing and actually delivering the unit, because we have a program to deliver over 13,000 units. We have a substantial number of projects. But that's not the end of the story, because once the unit is on the ground, then the real work starts, because there's a whole process about identifying the beneficiary, making sure that you're not unfair to the beneficiary, because you select a beneficiary who wants that form of accommodation and who can afford to pay the monthly rental. We offer an affordable rental. And then we must provide management services, which includes property maintenance, property management, rent billing, rent collection, and dealing with all community matters. We have quite a strong community development focus within Joshka. So we're a comprehensive, call it property development and property management company. The biggest challenge is making sure that what we are doing actually fits what's in the head and I suppose in the dreams of the person that we are trying to service.
Right. Okay, and that also sounds pretty much managed.
It is managed.
But it's a continuous process, obviously.
Yes, it wasn't always adequately managed. So the change that we've made is that although we're a housing company, we recognize that community development issues are key to whether we can do our job well. So we've created a new part of what we do, which is community development. Because you'll encounter problems in some of our projects of high rates of unemployment, health problems, including people who are infected with the HIV virus, those kinds of challenges. So we have a community development role as well.
Okay. Well, let's take a look at what, this looks to me like that's what it used to be, if we look there. And over here is what you're doing to convert the work being done, and that's the final product.
Correct.
So should we maybe walk through past the final product, see what it's like? So Rory, to our right would be the completed block that is now ready for the families to move in.
That's right. We're busy snagging them at the moment. The families will move in July.
Okay. What kind of size units have you got in this building?
We've got three kinds of units. We have a bachelor, a one-bedroom, and a two-bedroom. The two-bedroom is a 43 square meter unit.
Wow.
The one-bedroom is a 36 square meters. And the bachelor is just less than 30 square meters. So the units are reasonably small, and that's partly because of, as I said, the number of people that we need to house. But they're adequate.
How many people would this one block house in the end?
Well, there are 97 units in this block over here. So depending on the size of the unit, but there's likely to be an average of 3 times that amount. So about 300 to 350 people, including wife and kids.
Now, if somebody wants to move into a Joshko established development, do they contact Joshko, or how does that work?
Yes, people contact Joshko directly. We have, for each of our projects, we have a waiting list, because the project is responding to a particular need in a community. And the person needs to go through a proper allocation process, application process, supply the relevant documentation. We assess the person, and we process it from there. So it's one point of application with Joshka.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on BNG.
Thanks.
We shall talk again, I'm sure. No, vachikodzura hostel vachaduda apa.
Yeah, vachikodzura hostel ndichida apa. Then hostel chimo chocho chishabuti ngora chidura ri vanji. Zvino mara apo nera kudzura zvabuti ngori dzura na mita yashu na vana vacho vatokona kuwana pfunzo yabuti vangu mudhorobheni Johannesburg.
Yeah. Vako Joshko yakona amba navo ulugisa zvitu kana.
Yeah, zvino Joshko zvinera kutoda zvone ifuna irite the block committee dzinera tokona amba na Joshko ribvisa zvori ritoda zvipio the creche zvikoro zvavana vanokutoma ujena chikoro.
Size yandu yavo ngapi una room ngapi?
Apa ndi 38 square meter. Yeah, size yandu yanga ndi 38 square meter. Ina 2 bedroom, na bathroom, na toilet, na living room. Yeah.
And you're not fair kana vakachilugisa.
Yeah, iko vakuti ati touch up mara yoni yopera. Yeah.
Okay. We are going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll take a look at another social housing institution that's turning mere buildings, sometimes even run down, into good homes. Stay with us. Welcome back. In addition to providing rental stock that is affordable for the poor in the city, the Social Housing Foundation also has to actually rejuvenate the city itself and change the way it operates. To do this, it uses intermediate institutions such as Madula Moho, which have been responsible for turning some of the most derelict buildings in Hillbrow into livable, beautiful apartments like they're doing here at Europa. Let's see their work. So, Mishak, I know that the Social Housing Foundation uses institutions like yours to change derelict buildings into livable spaces, right? How many of these buildings have you done so far?
Okay, we now have 4 active, which are now working. There's a resident inside. Yeah, it is fully furnished and everything. We only have 4 of them.
4 of them. Are there some that you're still working on?
Yes, we are having one, which is 27 Esland Street, which they are still busy. The construction is already there on site. They are busy working. And then we have one which we are about to do in 3 months' time, which is LNB at Box Street.
Oh, yes, I know LNB.
Yeah, that's what we'll be working on after 2 months.
I remember Europa being this horrid hotel where drug addicts used to die. How long did it take you to turn it around into what it is today?
They started renovating in 2004, this building, because remember how it was before. It was hijacked, so it was not a safe place at all. So when we came in, we had to evict those people first and then come in. So when Madulamo came in this building, there was not even a wire. So when those people moved out, they still, even the lift, you can see the lift this side was stolen, no wire, nothing. So when Madulamo came in, they had to buy everything. You see here, it is new. It was bought brand new by Madulamo. So even down there, you can see the security was made a little bit tight. So that if those people decide maybe they want to come back, at least we are strong enough to stand for them.
Yeah.
And we decided that people must use their fingerprint to enter so that we know you are the real person who lives here. It doesn't confuse people, because if you use the system of these cards, somebody can easily take it and come inside here. Yeah. So that's how far we went to renovate the building. We make it as it is now. Yeah. That's the standard which we put here.
What kind of tenant do you have here now?
Okay, we have, since we are in Joburg, we are trying to help everybody. But our main focus was the people, disadvantaged people. Like in Europa here, we have 3 types of housing. We have transitional housing, which mainly you find is the people, some of them they are from the street. Some of them they are just people who are working, they're earning less than maybe 1,500 rand. They can't afford a flat of 900 and something. So at the first floor, we have those kind of residents. And we also have what we have communal, which is now the second floor where we are now, and the other floors. That is where we are only allow 2 people inside. So we are trying to build a growth from somebody who comes from the street, be on the first floor, go to school, get a job, then be able to find a better place in the same building, the same standard which we are used to, you understand? So on the second floor here, that's where we have a communal. So it's only a room, and then you share the ablutions, the toilet and the kitchen. And then we also have bachelors, which we call upper communal. That's where you find the ablutions are inside. You find a small kitchen there, you find your bathroom, either a shower or a bath inside, and there's a kitchen inside. So that is how we are trying to assist the community.
So how do people find out about the places Madula Moho has fixed for them to live in?
Okay, the initial one, the popular one, it was advertised on paper. Okay. Secondly, through MESS. MESS is an NGO. They work with street children and they help the disadvantaged communities. So when those people now get on their ground, they're now in the stage where they can afford something to, they need a place. That's how some others come. And also, as you can see, Europa is in the corner. Taxis are passing here,
so
cars.
They can see it.
They see it and they really want to come in.
It must have taken a very short time to fill up all your buildings. Or does it take a long time?
Wow. In one day, when we started opening here, we had 2,000 applications.
Wow.
That's to show that how people are really stranded for an accommodation in Joburg here in one day. In our building here, not less than 50 people a day, every day,
Come to us.
coming and ask for an accommodation every day, every day.
Thank you for coming on BNG.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, excellent. Well, Sophie, welcome to BNG.
Thank you very much.
How long have you been living here?
It's about 3 years now.
And how do you find it?
It was all right. It was cool. Hari kurekwani kinating nerena like modi pashela. Then the difference is now here is the rooms. You can do whatever you want. The parcelas have to share with another different people. And we are too many in one room. So then more madulambo barfadi rules like for Tanzania never guy more room and then no control.
How do you live at most spaces is okay. And rent that thing, right?
Yeah, rent right. Because kwale nerpatala like mutlakasi no onale meitsi. Then okre rent that thing el koding. At least mona rent that thing ohono afford because mutlakasa thing wa itekela. Then meitsi affordable law.
And where is the way batlanga thing? Not the problem. Excellent. Well, thanks for coming on BNG.
Yeah.
Let's take a short break. When we come back, we'll be talking to the Managing Director of the Social Housing Foundation, Brian Moholo. Welcome back. It would seem that there's an incredibly high demand for social housing, all the way from just single rooms that are temporary setups for people to move up to family units even, or bachelor flats of their own. But are we doing enough to meet this demand? To answer this, amongst other questions, is the Managing Director of the Social Housing Foundation, Mr. Brian Moholo. Welcome to BNG.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's start maybe on just a history and a background to the formation of the Social Housing Foundation.
The mandate of the foundation was to build capacity for the development of social housing and to promote the concept itself, because if you look at it, the concept could have been foreign to South Africa. We didn't have housing that was supported by government being rental stock for low to middle income earners.
What are the mechanics? How does it work?
Look, when we started, really, you started on a clean slate. You didn't have these institutions, and therefore we had to do a lot of education and training around the concept itself. We worked, to establish institutions. With those institutions that have been established, we were merely working to ensure that they have the systems and the mechanisms to be able to develop the housing and to manage the housing itself. I think you could say that we are facilitators. So we are facilitating and making sure that the process happens.
And where is your work now that work seems to be done?
If you look at the numbers of units themselves, they are increasing. We've got over 50,000 social housing units. We now have a social housing policy, which we didn't have before. And very soon we'll be having the social housing law or the social housing act. We have a number of players. We have increased the number of stakeholders in the sector. You have private sector playing a much bigger role than they did before. And you have increasingly municipalities playing a much bigger role than they did before. And generally, you have a social housing community that is emerging. I think we now have a lot of children growing up in social housing institutions. We have a number of families living in these complexes. So clearly, I mean, there's been a lot of development in the area.
When we walk around social housing complexes, one of the things we noticed above anything else is a huge uptake. The demand for it is incredible. There's a real hunger for it. Do you think you are sort of working at a good enough speed to meet that demand?
A third of poor people going to urban centers are not able to rent in the formal rental setup. And where do they go? Then they go to informal settlements. Really, the environment and the facilities out there will not enable them to quite quickly improve their lives. And therefore, that is why you would find that any opportunity for formal rental will be taken up quite quickly. In housing, we've worked out a national strategy on rental housing. And the strategy recognizes the fact that we have to increase our delivery of rental housing stock. And therefore, the targets as we have them at the moment is that in the next 5 years, we should be able to be delivering, in 5 years, 100,000 units for rental. And you know, that in itself is not enough, but at least there is somewhere to start. When I look at our statistics at the moment, is that we are, for social housing, we are delivering about 1,500 a year. And really, in terms of the 100,000 unit in 5-year plans, we should be delivering 20,000 units per year.
This is across the country?
This is across the country. Well, we have a positive news is that we have a very strong pipeline coming from the social housing institutions themselves with local authorities and provinces. And it looks like we'll be able to work towards meeting that target.
How does the work that the Social Housing Foundation do dovetail with the Breaking New Ground strategy?
Look, at the heart of the Breaking New Ground strategy is the creation of sustainable human settlements. And what the work that we're doing is quite central to that, because you are saying that you are not going to provide only one type of house. The solution will not just be a single solution. There are multiple solutions to this. And when you look at our program, you look at rental housing, and there are different types that we have. The strategy is to make sure that the human settlements are also sustainable. And if you don't have rental, as we have recognized that, you know, you don't just start off by owning a house. Housing has a career. You have to start somewhere and move on. And we're providing that as a solution.
Well, thank you for coming on the show, and good luck with the rest of it.
Eric, thank you very much.
That's it for this edition of Breaking New Ground. Please join us again next week at the same time, 10 p.m. right here on SABC2. From me and the rest of the BNG team, so long.